What's up guys, Onmaths here, and today we look at similarity and congruence. So, first question up from Edexcel asks us to name shape E. Nothing to do with similarity and congruence, but I thought I might as well just answer it since it's part of this question. So E is a four-sided shape, quadrilateral, but the most important part that you notice is that it's got two pairs of parallel sides. Now whenever you have a shape with two pairs of parallel sides, one pair of parallel sides, so two parallel sides, one pair, and its four-side, it has to be a trapezium. So if you've got a four-sided shape, one pair of parallel sides, don't bother looking at anything else, it has to be a trapezium. Now you might say, well, what about a rectangle? Rectangle has two pairs of parallel sides, and square and stuff all have two pairs of parallel sides. So one pair of parallel sides, trapezium. Anyway, it says two of the shapes are congruent, write down the letters of the shape. Now congruent means exactly the same. So, if I draw out, let's draw out D, and then we're going to try and fit it exactly into the other shapes and see whether one fits, which I'm suspecting it will. So if I try it with A, clearly it doesn't work. If I try it with B, it doesn't work. If I try it with C, it looks like it doesn't work. But if I just rotate it the other way up, you can see... Ooh, if I just go back, grab the whole thing, you can see that it fits in there perfectly. Let's just move my parallel side back. So therefore, D and C, or C and D, are congruent because they're exactly the same shape. You can be flipped around, it can be rotated, but if it fits in exactly, then two shapes are congruent. Right, moving on to our AQA question, and this time we've got the word similar. Now similar just means that one's an enlargement of the other. So with this we've got to first of all find out what the scale factor is, but it actually tells us in the question, so this is what makes this slightly easier question. It asks us to find an angle, a length, and another length. So we're going to start off with the angle. Now the angle here is 54. Now if these two are similar shapes always have the same angle. Remember, it's an enlargement. The only thing that changes are the lengths, not the angles. So x is also going to be 54. So that's a nice one to start off with. Now next we're going from 5 centimeters to h. And the enlargement is the scale factor, which is 1.5. So all we need to do for this one, to find out what h is do 5 times 1.5, which will be 7.5. So h is 7.5. Now, the last one, we're going the other way. We're going from the big to the small. So instead of timesing by 1.5, we're going to do the opposite. What's the opposite of timesing? Dividing. So we're going to divide it by 1.5. If I timesed it by 1.5, it would get bigger. What is it, 13.5? It would get bigger. Well, that doesn't make sense because the shape is smaller. So just think about it logically. So to find W, we get the 9, but we divide it by 1.5. And you can do it on the calculator. It gives us the answer of 6. Our last question is from OCR, and this time we've got 3 similar triangles. Now all we need to do is find out what x is. So you might be thinking, well, can we not just go straight from the big one to the small one? Well, no, we can't, because we don't have enough information to do that. We've kind of got to go from the biggest one to the second biggest one to the smallest one. Okay, so we're going to start off going from the big one to the middle sized one. And so we're going to first of all find out what the scale factor is. So we find 2 corresponding lengths, and we find out what the scale factor is. So the 15 centimeters and the 5 centimeters are corresponding. Corresponding just means that we know both of them, that they're the same side of the triangle, the left-hand side of the triangle. And this is misleading because on some triangles they're kind of rotated. Here we know they're not rotated because you've got that one angle at the top of each of them and that kind of double angle at the bottom right of each of them. So they're all the same way up, which makes this question a bit nicer. So we're going to find out the scale factor between the 15 centimeters is gone down to 5 centimeters. So we know the scale factor needs to make it go down. So what we do to find scale factor is we do the new value, which is 5, over the old value, which is 15. Okay, which is the same as, so you divide top and bottom by 5, you get 1 over 3. So it's times a third. So we're going to do the same scale factor to the one that we don't know, so 21. So 21 times a third. So a third of 21, well, 21 divided by 3 is 7. So that's going to be 7 centimeters there. Okay. Next, we're going to use that 7 centimeters because we're going to work out the scale factor between the middle-sized triangle and the small one. And again, we times the new value, 4, over the old value, 8, which is the same as a half, right? 4 divided by 4 over 8, divide top and bottom by 4, get 1 over 2. Then we get that 7 centimeters to find out what x is. So we're going to times that by a half, and so we're doing 7 times a half, which is 3.5. So x is 3.5. So that's really, really complicated one, and we should put centimeters as well, even though it says centimeters next to the x. Really, really complicated question that, because you've got to go from the big triangle to the middle triangle, then the middle triangle to the small triangle. But hopefully it's not too difficult. It's just doing the same process twice. Moving on to the next part of this question, and these two triangles, so a triangle OAB and triangle OCD, are actually similar as well. Okay, so whenever you have a triangle within a triangle and they both have the same angle down here, they are also similar. And the best way I've found to do these questions is draw out the two triangles separately. So I'm going to draw these out separately, and it sometimes makes it a lot easier to kind of figure out what the answers are. So this is 14 and 4, and this is 7 here. Now this part we don't know, so I'm just going to call that x because I don't know what it is. So this will be 14 plus whatever that is, so plus x. It's asked us to find out what BD is, so I've called that x just for simplicity. You could have left it as BD. Okay, so we're going to do the same process. We're going to work out the scale factor, and so we do it the same way. So it's going to be times the new value, 7, over the old value, 4, and we're going to apply that to this one here, and this is going to create a kind of equation for us to work out. So we're going to times that by 7 over 4. So we've got 14 times 7 over 4 will equal 14 plus BD, or plus x we called it. So this is just an equation we've got to solve. So get my lines down. So this is a calculator question, so I'm going to do it on calculator. 14 times 7 over 4, and I get 24.5. So 24.5 equals 14 plus x. I'm going to take away the x from both sides. Take away 14 from both sides. Written 4. So take away 14, and that gives us 10.5 equals x. So BD, or which we called x, is 10.5. So really nasty question from OCR, but as you can tell from the question number, question 20, it is coming towards the end of the exam. So with this second one especially, like labelling the unknown side with a letter just makes things easier. And you can see here that you need to know how to solve, and so make sure that you're happy with how to solve. Drawing out the two similar triangles is always the best way of doing it. Otherwise things get complicated, because a common mistake with this is that people go from 14 to x, so times 14 by 7 over 4, and think that's the answer. But it's not the answer, because the full length is 14 plus x, which you can see on the diagram we've drawn. So if you're happy with question 1 and 2, or the first two questions we went through, and you're not so happy with this one, then that's okay. This probably is targeting more grade 5 students than grade 4 students. But if you did follow along, then brilliant. I hope you found the video useful. If you did, please click like. Please keep your comments coming in for suggestions of stuff you want us to cover after we finish our summer school series. If you want to see more from us, we release videos every single weekday, that's Monday to Friday, at 9 o'clock in the morning. Just click subscribe and the bell icon to make sure you're up to date with all the videos we release. If you haven't already, which I'm sure you have, you can click the link that appears magically at the top of the video to take you straight through to our website onmaths.com, which is packed full of free resources to help you with your maths. Otherwise, thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.